this is going to be a very raw video on everything I did to take this info sales team from 55K in December to 223K in January. Now, December is a notoriously bad month for info, but the previous best month that this offer had was 97K. So we still more than 2x in January. Here's the tracking sheet so you can see a little bit of proof. And I want to speak about the fact that you can put anything in the offer into one of two categories. Either it's something holding you back or something propelling you forward. Every single system, every single sales rep, every single input can be placed into these two categories. For example, having a really poor closer is holding you back. Having a really, really good setter can propel you forward. You obviously want to maximize the things propelling you forward and you want to minimize the things holding you back. So going from 55K to 220K, we had to focus on the things that were holding us back first. Most notably, this was the show rate. We run a normal VSL funnel, go through a triage call, get a WhatsApp group chat with resources, and a confirmation on WhatsApp 24 hours before the call. On some other offers I've seen, this is more than enough. You can get an 80-90% show rate with this. Specifically with this offer though, we started seeing diminishing returns, especially in December. We started getting a lower and lower show rate. Even though we had more calls booked maybe in December than we did the month prior, we were making less money because of the show rate. So we obviously had to tackle these issues. And what we did for that started off with fixing our SMS and email reminders. So before that, we were just using emails and less frequent. We upped it to 24 hours before, 6 hours and 1 hour, as well as incorporating SMS reminders. That way, the lead is getting absolutely hammered before their call. They know this call is happening. It's a conscious decision for them to not show up to this call. It's not them forgetting. Next is changing the triage call a little bit. So we made sure that the setters are obviously going through the whole urgency process and speaking to the leads, but then also making 100% sure the lead actually accepts the invite in their emails. Like go onto your emails, go click yes, add it to your calendar, and then also send the first WhatsApp message to that group chat on the call itself. Because sometimes people don't have WhatsApp downloaded yet and they forget. They're like, oh, I'll do it later, whatever. Or they never see the WhatsApp group chat. They never send a message in there. They kind of completely forget. But if we create the group chat on the call, have them send that first message while still being on the triage call, they now have no reason not to be active in that group chat. They've seen it. We know their number is the correct one. They've replied in the group chat. We know they can be active if they want to be. Next up was messaging the creator with the date and time of the meeting. So this is a big one. If you can get someone to go DM the creator whose team they have a call booked in with, saying, oh yeah, my call is Saturday at 7 p.m. and I'm super excited. They have now double confirmed. It's not just a rep they've spoken to. They've now spoken to the actual creator, told the creator, oh, I'm showing up to this call at 7 p.m. on Saturday. This also opens up the door for after the call, the setter to then jump in on behalf of the creator and further the conversation with that lead. This is an underrated one. If you aren't doing this already and you're struggling with show rate, implement messaging the creator on Instagram or whatever platform you use to confirm the date and time of the meeting. Another thing we went into was the triage call urgency. So obviously urgency is a big part of the triage call, but we kept running into the same objection by the end of last year, which was the I'll start in the new year objection. Now this can be applied to pretty much any life event objection, like, oh, I'll have to wait for this and that, besides money logistic objections. If someone says, oh, I'll start in the new year because I've got family and then it's Christmas and New Year and I want to be doing this and that during that time, I just want to relax. Normalize it first, like perfectly fine, man. I understand that most people want to spend this time with their family. Just so I can get an idea, is there actually anything that changes between now and the 3rd of January when you actually want to move ahead? It's like, oh no, I'll just be in a better headspace and I'll be ready for the year and whatnot. And then you can say, okay, got you. That makes total sense. Out of interest, who do you think will be more successful? The person who starts right away or who waits for the perfect time to get started? Now, there's an obvious answer to that question, and they'll probably agree with you and they'll probably say some extra things after that. Then you can say, listen, this would just be an hour commitment. And then you say, so wouldn't it make sense to book in this call anyways? It would just be an hour of your time. Worst case, you get an hour worth of info that you can then act on in January if you decide to, or you can already get it out of your mind and start planning what your next step is. Very simple. Now, obviously, you don't want to be full on pushing a lead way too hard to get on the call to begin with, but just some light objection handling like this goes a long way to get more bookings. And then we added an extra confirmation call. So you have the triage call, let's say that's on Tuesday, the actual closing call is on Thursday. We then implemented another confirmation call on either Thursday or Wednesday night, calling them like 12 hours beforehand, and if they don't pick up 6 hours beforehand, and if they don't pick up 3 hours, and then 2 hours, and then 1 hour, and then eventually canceling their call if they still don't pick up. So the setters are double confirming these leads within like 12 hours of their actual closing call to double make sure they are showing up, they are ready to go. But one of the other things we were struggling with was inconsistency from sales reps. If you manage a sales team, you know how inconsistent people can be. So first of all, we had to tighten up how strict our schedules were. So under 1 hour talk time, if a setter gets under 1 hour talk time at dialer, they are instantly fired. We don't care. We don't want to hear you out. Unless you have like a really, really valid excuse, then fair enough. And also we made it mandatory to send your weekly schedule beforehand, including the color coding. So let's say we have 4 dialers on this offer. You can then see, oh, Monday we have 2 people who's saying red, so they're completely out, and 2 people who are green, it will be okay. But if you have maybe like 3 reds and 1 orange on Sunday, it's like, okay, you're going to have trouble. You need someone else dialing more leads, because obviously speed to lead is super important. The other thing was hiring hungry guys. We made a new hire in January, someone who instantly came in and put in tons and tons of volume. Now, yes, they will need a lot of work on their skill set, and that's a part of the game, but they're hungry and they're putting in volume, which is like the main thing you're going to look for in a setter. And then also firing those guys who aren't driving results. We had someone who actually put in some decent numbers, although it was difficult because they were working a full-time job as well. We had to let them go because they simply weren't getting the results we were looking for. Comparing them to the other setters in terms of how much time they were putting in, they just weren't getting as much results as everyone else in terms of collecting that money. Like they were getting bookings, but the guys that they were booking in weren't showing up. They were unresponsive. Maybe they weren't qualified, all these kinds of things. So we had to fire the rep and bring on someone new who was willing to put in crazy volume and constantly improve as well. So now that we had fixed some of the biggest bottlenecks from the offer, what did we actually do that propelled us forward to 220K in a single month? Now, the first thing was running a webinar. If you haven't run a webinar for your offer yet, you absolutely have to. We roughly had 4,000 visitors to the actual landing page, 1,600 registrants, 55% show up rate. We ended up booking 177 calls completely organically from this webinar. We had full closers calendars fully packed out a few days in advance. As you can see here, I said 100K week incoming for the creator, which we then ended up doing exactly in 1 week. Also, this creator only had about 18K on Instagram and 4K on YouTube as well. Now, the webinar did allow us to collect 77K in cash very, very quickly. Very useful. The other thing is having a webinar replay is probably the single best pre-call resource you can have. We implemented the webinar replay as a part of the triage and booking process to make sure leads are super warm. If you've ever closed on a webinar or you run a webinar, you know that these leads are extremely warm, easy to close leads. They've already watched 2 hours breaking down the model, getting connected to the creator. They're very easy to close. So we have a free community funnel in which a lot of the leads are older. So what we actually did was when the dialers are hitting up these leads and these guys are like kind of unfamiliar or maybe they're unsure, instantly you're going to send them the webinar replay. If they watch that 2 hour long replay, they then book in the call and then they're likely to close. So we did that with a ton of old free community leads, as well as any no closes in the past few weeks or months. And then any new leads as well. If we had the slightest idea that they would watch the webinar we send them, we would send it over and ask them to watch it. They're moving down the buying process very quickly. And if you can step in fast after they've watched that replay, you can close leads very easily. Like your closes don't even have to be amazing. So with all of that implemented, we actually also increased the pricing. So our medium program, we increased from 2.5K USD to 3K and then 5K USD to 5.5K. And then comparing the stats from December to January, you can see we had around 225 submissions, 70% qualified, we'll say 55% show rate, 50% close rate, 1.1K average order value, 47K payment plans account for the rest. And then in January, we did get more submissions, but also we increased our show rate by 20% and our close rate went up as well by 5% because leads are way warmer after watching the masterclass. And then with the price increases, the average order value went up as well, taking us to 138K. Again, payment plans takes it to around 146. And then that, as well as the webinars cash, brings us to 55K all the way to 220K in a single month. Now, obviously, this doesn't account for all the smaller changes and things that went into this and managing the reps on the back end, but these are some of the higher level decisions and changes we had to make to increase our show rate, our close rate, and our average order value to increase the offer by 4x the prior month. I'm going to keep posting this sort of content. So if you're interested in this, hit the subscribe button to see more of these videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.